Hey everyone! Tonight, we're diving into a topic that's about as much fun as a root canal, the 2008 financial crisis. Remember that? Yeah, good times. Basically, imagine a giant game of Jenga played with the entire global economy, and someone just pulled out the wrong block. It all started with a seemingly noble idea: let's make home ownership more accessible. Banks were encouraged to lend money to people who might not have qualified for traditional mortgages. Think lower credit scores, smaller down payments. You know, the kind of folks who might struggle to pay back a hefty loan. This led to a surge in subprime mortgages. Now, on the surface, this sounds great. More people owning homes, right? The problem is, when you lend money to people who can't afford to pay it back, things tend to get a little messy. And messy it got. But before we delve into that delightful mess, let's take a quick commercial break. Don't go away. We'll be right back with more financial fun after these messages. Welcome back. Now, where were we? Ah yes, subprime mortgages. The financial equivalent of giving a toddler a chainsaw and saying, "Have fun, kiddo." See, these mortgages were bundled together and sold off as investments. Think of it like a giant smoothie of debt, blended with a dash of hope and a whole lot of wishful thinking. These debt smoothies were then sliced and diced into different tranches based on risk, with the riskiest ones offering the highest potential returns. Wall Street, never one to resist a good gamble, gobbled these things up like they were cronuts on free donut day. After all, housing prices were skyrocketing, so what could go wrong? Spoiler alert, a lot. But hey, it wasn't just Wall Street. Remember those credit rating agencies, the ones supposed to assess risk? Well, they were busy giving these debt smoothies top-notch ratings, like a Michelin-starred chef endorsing a gas station hot dog. So, we've got risky loans, greedy investors, and complicit rating agencies. What could possibly go wrong? All right, folks, buckle up because things are about to get really wild. We're talking about CDOs and derivatives, the financial instruments that would make even a seasoned gambler break out in a cold sweat. CDOs, or collateralized debt obligations, were basically those debt smoothies we talked about earlier, all dressed up in fancy Wall Street suits. They were marketed as safe investments, even though they were stuffed full of subprime mortgages. It's like putting lipstick on a pig, except the pig is about to charge through the global economy. Then there were derivatives, which are basically bets on the performance of other financial instruments. Think of it like betting on whether your neighbor's dog will poop on your lawn today, except, you know, with trillions of dollars at stake. These derivatives were so complex that even the people selling them didn't fully understand them. It was like a game of financial hot potato, with everyone hoping they wouldn't be left holding the exploding spud when the music stopped. And guess what? The music did stop. Remember that housing bubble we mentioned? Yeah, it finally popped. Turns out, you can't just keep inflating prices forever. Eventually, people realized they can't actually afford those McMansions with their subprime mortgages. As housing prices plummeted, those subprime mortgages started defaulting like it was going out of style. Remember those debt smoothies? Yeah, they curdled, fast. Suddenly, those CDOs and derivatives weren't looking so hot anymore. It was like everyone realized they were playing poker with a deck full of jokers. Panic set in. Banks stopped lending to each other. The entire financial system was teetering on the brink. And then, Lehman Brothers, a venerable investment bank, went belly up. It was the financial equivalent of the Titanic hitting an iceberg, except this time, there weren't enough lifeboats for everyone. Section 5. Bailouts and backlash. The government steps in, sparking outrage. With the global economy in freefall, governments around the world faced a terrifying dilemma. Intervene and bail out the banks, or let the whole system collapse like a house of cards in a hurricane. They chose the former. In the US, Congress passed the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or TARP, which pumped hundreds of billions of dollars into struggling banks. It was like giving a defibrillator to a dying patient, except the patient was the entire financial system. Now, you might think people would be grateful for this intervention. You'd be wrong. The bailouts were deeply unpopular, seen by many as a reward for reckless behavior. After all, why should taxpayers be on the hook for Wall Street's gambling addiction? The bailouts sparked outrage, protests, and a whole lot of political finger-pointing. It was a classic case of heads I win, tails you lose, with Wall Street reaping the rewards of risky bets while Main Street footed the bill. Section 6. Main Street suffers, job losses, foreclosures, and the human cost. While Wall Street was getting bailed out, Main Street was getting hammered. The financial crisis triggered a deep recession, the worst since the Great Depression. Businesses closed, unemployment soared, homes were foreclosed upon at an alarming rate. It was a time of immense hardship for millions of ordinary people. Families lost their life savings. People lost their jobs and their homes. The American dream, once so tantalizingly close, seemed to slip further and further away. The human toll of the financial crisis was immeasurable. It was a stark reminder that behind the abstract numbers and complex financial instruments, there are real people with real lives, dreams, and aspirations. And those dreams were shattered. Section 7. The aftermath, new regulations, lingering scars, and lessons learned. Maybe. In the wake of the crisis, governments around the world scrambled to prevent a repeat performance. New regulations were enacted, aimed at curbing excessive risk-taking and increasing transparency in the financial system. The Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act, a mouthful of a law if there ever was one, was passed in the US in 2010. It was designed to prevent another financial meltdown, though its effectiveness remains a subject of debate. While some progress has been made, the scars of the 2008 crisis linger. Many people lost faith in the financial system, and the gap between the rich and poor widened even further. The crisis also exposed the dangers of unchecked greed and the importance of ethical behavior in the financial industry. Whether these lessons have been truly learned, however, remains to be seen. Section 8. The Big Short, a comedic glimpse into the abyss. Now, I know this is all pretty serious stuff. So, if you're looking for a slightly more entertaining take on the 2008 crisis, I highly recommend checking out the movie The Big Short. It's a darkly comedic look at the events leading up to the crash, featuring an all-star cast including Christian Bale, Steve Carell, and Ryan Gosling. Don't worry, you don't need an economics degree to understand it. The filmmakers do a great job of explaining the complex financial instruments involved in a way that's both informative and hilarious. Plus, it's always fun to watch Wall Street get taken down a peg or two, even if it's just on screen. Section 9. The 2008 crisis and why it still matters today. You might be thinking, okay, that's all very interesting, John, but what does the 2008 crisis have to do with me? Well, my friend, it has everything to do with you. The 2008 crisis was a wake-up call, a stark reminder that our interconnected global economy is a lot more fragile than we like to think. It highlighted the dangers of unchecked greed, regulatory failures, and the importance of financial literacy. The lessons learned, or not learned, from the crisis continue to shape the world we live in today. From the regulations governing our financial institutions to the debates about income inequality, the legacy of 2008 is all around us. So, the next time you hear someone talking about the financial crisis, don't just tune it out. Pay attention. Learn from the mistakes of the past, because the future of our economy and our world depends on it. Section 10. Conclusion. A hopefully more stable future? So there you have it, folks. The 2008 financial crisis in a nutshell. It was a perfect storm of greed, recklessness, and regulatory failure, with devastating consequences for millions of people around the world. Have we learned our lesson? It's hard to say for sure. The financial system is undoubtedly safer today than it was in 2008, thanks to stricter regulations and increased oversight. But the seeds of the next crisis are always being sown, somewhere. The best we can do is stay informed, hold our leaders accountable, and demand a financial system that works for everyone, not just the wealthy and well-connected. Because, as we learned in 2008, when the financial system goes haywire, it's not just Wall Street that suffers, it's all of us. And on that cheery note, I'm gonna go pour myself a stiff drink. See you next time.